Hello again, time for another face-up video, and this time with commentary. Today I'll be painting my forest doll Damie head. It's the first Cyclops doll I've ever had, which is a bit of a surprise to me because I have loved the idea of a Cyclops doll since I started collecting. This head has already been featured in 2 of my videos, so it's about time for it to be painted. In the mock-up, I settled on a tsundere, grumpy expression. I wanted it to look mad, upset, or embarrassed depending on the context. I never know how to start my face-ups, so I usually start putting down lines and blocking out shapes just to give myself a jumping off point. The eyelid shape is pretty different from my mock-up, but it's something to work off of. The early stages of these face-ups for me is just massaging lines back and forth until they start to look like they're in the right place. I cut a lot of erasing and redrawing out of these videos. Sometimes I feel like it's a little deceptive, like I'm trying to pretend that I did everything right the first time. But make no mistake, I fussed over the sketching stage of this face-up for over an hour. It's just really frustrating to watch someone attempt the same line 6 or 7 times, and my videos are already too long. I think I drew this mouth like 3 or 4 times before it looked right. It seemed like it would be easy to pull off, but getting the line weights and precise expression right was pretty difficult. This first attempt was wider than my mock-up, which would still have been cute, but I really wanted to get as close as possible to my mock-up. I usually only start filling in shapes on a sketch once I'm reasonably happy with my lines. Watercolor pencils aren't super prone to staining resin, especially a light brown like this, but sometimes having to erase too much can leave a faint stain in the sealant. It usually isn't visible by the end of the face-up process, but I still try to avoid filling in areas I'm not sure about just to keep the face-up as neat as possible. I don't include obvious eyelashes on my face-ups. To be honest, I'm not great at delicate little feathery eyelash lines, and I prefer simple geometric looking eyes anyway. People also tend to assume that any character with visible eyelashes is female, and my boys are fighting an uphill battle in that department already. But for a Cyclops with one huge eye, having no eyelashes made the eye look weirdly naked. I ended up going with these chunky geometric lashes and really leaning into this sort of cartoony aesthetic. I wasn't 100% happy with the sketch at this point, but I was getting impatient, so it was time to move on. I always apply pastels just a tiny bit at a time, especially on the cheeks. I feel like it gives me a more subtle gradient, and it keeps me from accidentally going too dark. This red pastel that I chose is just a bit too red for the look I was going for. I was supposed to use a more peachy color, but I'll correct that a bit later on in the process. I don't know why the pure pink bothers me so much, but it was just looking really wrong, and I couldn't figure out why. I was feeling really unsure at this point, but I couldn't tell if something was really off or I had just been looking at it for too long. Thankfully, after sealing and taking a step away from the project, I thought to add some burnt sienna to the cheeks. It's an extremely subtle change, but it made me so much more confident moving forward. How I layer the sealant of my face-ups varies based on the layout of the face. For my first layer, I'm focusing on lighter lines like the fold of the eyelid that would be behind or covered up by the darker eyelash shape. These cheek lines look really dark now, but I'm glad I went over them in paint because they're really subtle by the time the face-up is done. I can't believe I made this mistake. I always clean any resin pieces before sealing them to get rid of oils and lint, but I put these straight on the head with my grubby fingers and sealed them like that. Not sure what I was thinking. Starting in with the darker brown. I'm starting out with all the little finicky details and difficult parts just to get them out of the way. I really don't paint face-ups one feature at a time. I tend to jump from feature to feature depending on what I feel like painting. If I get frustrated or exhausted painting a particularly difficult part, I just take a break from that and start with something else. The mouth is particularly tricky because the line weight is super important and I don't have enough confidence in painting yet to be able to reliably control the thickness of my lines. To compensate for that, I do a lot of erasing with a damp Q-tip to get the lines how I want them. These blocky eyelashes were pretty tough to paint. First, I drew the outline of the eyelash, not worrying if the lines intersected, and erased the overlapping lines when I was finished filling in the shape. I usually find that subtractive shaping is much easier than additive, if that makes any sense. I had to repeat that process 4 more times, which was a little tedious. I used a slightly thicker brush to fill in the majority of the eye. I don't know why, but this is always so satisfying. I blushed the ears with only pink. In hindsight, I should have done a mix of pink and the Sienna like I did with the face, but it didn't bother me as much on the ears. I never really know what I'm doing when I'm blushing ears. Usually I put a little on the tip and a little on the lobe and call it good, but these ears have so much surface area and so much going on, I felt like I needed to add more detail. At this point, I was past the hard stuff, so it was a relief to get all this sealed in. My original mock-up had a highlight on this upper lash line, and I wasn't really that passionate about it, but I wanted to get as close to my mock-up as possible. If anything, I think at least they added a little bit of visual interest, even if they don't really make sense. Sometimes the teeth give me a hard time, sometimes it's as easy as this. My white paint cooperated with me this time and gave me a thin, opaque result right away. I fixed the line weight a little bit, but otherwise, pretty painless. My last step was adding a touch of dark brown pastel to the tapered corners of the eye. I always feel like this step pulls everything together. I'm not even entirely sure why. Part of it is definitely that these little eye corners are the toughest part to get right, so I like to be able to cover up the imperfections a little bit. I I tried to apply a gradient to that tan highlight, but since it was on the same layer and the gouache I use has a shiny finish, it didn't stick very well. If I wanted it to be more noticeable, I would add another layer after sealing, but this is fine for me. One last eye test to make sure everything worked together. I'm really happy with how this face-up turned out. I think it ended up pretty close to my mock-up this time, which is good because I was really attached to the mock-up and I really wanted to bring this character to life. I figured I'd try the other eyes I made for him, since I had them lying around after all. As I suspected, I liked the green one best by far since it matches the geometric elements of the face-up, but the others were cute in their own ways. I wish I knew more people who had this head. It would be kind of cool to be able to give these two rejects away, but obviously they're not universally useful. I'm not settled on this wig, but here he is all put together. His name is Vesper, and he's my little tsundere Cyclops boy. I added these little glass nail embellishments to look like tears, but they're held on with clear Elmer's glue so they can be easily removed without damaging the face-up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully my voiceovers aren't too tiresome. I'm still new to using my microphone, so we'll see how well this type of video goes in the future. I really loved painting a Cyclops doll. It made me approach designing a face-up in a very different way. If any of you know of any other cool Cyclops dolls, or maybe a Triclops or some other unusual number of eyes, please let me know in the comments. Well, that's all I got for now. Thanks again for watching. One last super quick update on this video that's taken forever. I actually got a different wig that I cut myself. Don't pay too much attention to that because I cut it really shitty. But I got this cute green wig and I think it suits him a lot better. So this is the final wig and this is, I guess, the final version of his character. I'm like really happy with his face up, and that's part of the reason why I've been putting off this video for so long, is I kind of want to have like a good video for this face up, and I don't know if I accomplished that, but it's got to go up eventually. Wind really does not like this hair. Anyway, that's it for now. Hopefully not too many big delays like this in the future. Bye.